What's up everybody? Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Corky and this is Craftspiracy. Hello everybody, I hope you're all having a fantastic day today. It's been a minute since I filmed a video because I was really struggling with what topic I wanted to do my next video on, and I finally settled on a legend. So this video is going to be on the Legend of Melusine. So without further ado, let's get into the story. Melusine in French, or Melusina in Spanish, is a half-human, half-serpent fish. She was cursed to be a two-tailed serpent every Saturday. Her sea lore legends are widespread and especially connected with the northwestern areas of France, Luxembourg, and the Celtic region, including Brittany in northwestern France and northwestern Spain. In the Celtic region of Brittany, in northwestern France, some tales claim that Melusine's two sisters, Melior and Palatine, seduced Merlin and put him into a rock where Merlin is still sleeping. They claim Merlin is living backwards, being born at 10,000 years old and getting younger every year. Supposedly, Merlin will awake and move the rock in Brittany when he reaches the ripe age of 100. Melusine's tale was originally depicted and described as being a monstrous sight, with a serpent's tail split in two. Due to public sympathy, her tail takes many metamorphoses, including morphing into a sort of dragon-like tail. However, monster only meant strange and unusual until the 19th century, when writers put the evil spin on monsters. Before that, monsters could be seen as good, like Melusine. Melusine is the only mermaid in Western folklore who has a split or two tails, even in the New World. Melusine's mother, Persina, or Persine, was a Celtic water fairy or water nymph. Her father, King Elenus of Albion, or England, sometimes mistakenly translated to Albany or Scotland, was a mortal. They met at the Fountain of Thirst. King Elenus fell madly in love with Persina and asked for her hand in marriage. Persina agreed under one circumstance. He was to never enter her chambers during and after childbirth or while nursing. Persina fell pregnant and gave birth to three beautiful daughters, Melusine, Melior, and Palatine, or Palatina. King Elenus was convinced to see his wife and his new daughters by his son from a previous marriage. Persina was so heartbroken by the king's betrayal, he let his curiosity get the better of him. She took her three babies and fled to the island of Avalon. In Celtic, Irish, Welsh, and northwestern French traditions, Avalon represents paradise. In the 5th century Cymric, a modern version still spoken in Wales today, Avalon means Island of Apples, a symbol of paradise. Avalon is also known as the place where King Arthur's sword, the Excalibur, was forged, and later where Arthur was taken to heal from his wounds as a result of the Battle of Camelot. The girls grew up on the island of Avalon, knowing nothing of their father. One day, when the girls were teens, they asked their mother about their father. Persina tells the girls of the rules that she set in place for the king and how he betrayed her. Melior said to her mother, "Well, that doesn't sound so bad, Mom. I think he was just curious, nothing more." Palatine agrees. "Yes, I think we should meet our father." Melusine, on the other hand, said nothing, as she quietly planned her revenge. She convinces her sisters to help her, and they agree. The next evening, at twilight, also known as the time of crossroads and portals. The girls venture out to find their father. After doing so, they wall him up in a tower as punishment for hurting their mother. The girls arrive back to their mother, proud of their victory, but to their dismay, they find Persina enraged with them. Persina strikes Melusine 3 times. 3 is a magic number, also representing the Trinity. However, most stories like these are from the pre-Christian era. Also associated with the Morrigu or Morrigan, often described as a trio of individuals or sisters called the 3 Morgana, sort of stuck together and revolve as if they were one body. Persina said to Melusine, "You will never be forgiven for what you have done for me. For that, your curse will be double. You are already my most beautiful daughter. I cannot take that from you. But what I will do is make you a monster every 7th day of the week, every Saturday. If you can find a man to love you despite your monstrosity, you may marry him. You may even marry a man without telling him, but your union will end as soon as he witnesses your monstrosity." Persina gave Melusine a split tail, leaving her human 6 days of the week and half serpent on Saturdays. The second part of her curse would come years later, after living with the torture of her split serpent's tail became too painful to bear. Melior and Palatine were also punished, but with different curses. One was to be walled up in a castle until the end of her days, and the other to become invincible. Melusine leaves Avalon and grows to be a beautiful woman, other than Saturdays. She goes on to inhabit water areas like wells, creeks, streams, and the coast of Brittany. She was known to leave food for the poor and to often hang around fountains. Men adored her beauty and easily fell in love with her, but she did not trust them. Occasionally she would flirt and maybe even make love to them, but then she would disappear. She did not believe anyone could love her enough to not question where she goes and why she cannot be seen on Saturdays. Melusine lives in the forest until one day she meets either a duke, a count, or a knight, depending on the version of the story. In one version of the legend, she meets a distressed duke who accidentally killed his uncle in a hunt. Melusine consoles the duke and helps him explain the unfortunate fate of his uncle to his family. With the duke's mind at ease, he asks Melusine for her hand in marriage. She agrees and promises to help him obtain riches, wealth, and power beyond his imagination, but under one condition. He is to never see her on Saturdays, no matter what. He agreed, and the two were married. Melusine helped the duke gain the power to the kingdom and build up the city where they had 10 beautiful children together, of a now royal lineage. Melusine had a castle built where she graciously and lovingly ruled over her people who adored and appreciated her. After years of marriage, the duke's family began to pester him about his wife's odd Saturday activities. He was informed that she did not like to attend Mass at their cathedral either. As the duke's suspicions grew, he began to suspect his wife was having an affair. Letting his jealousy get the best of him, he spied on Melusine through the keyhole of her chambers on a Saturday night. She appeared as beautiful as ever from the waist up, but from the bottom half down, she was splashing around like a serpent in the bathtub. The duke was mortified and accused her of being a full serpent. Melusine was heartbroken by her husband's betrayal. He broke his promise and revealed her secret to everyone. Some say Melusine either turned into a dragon and flew away, or she jumped out the window with her serpent tail and swam away in the river. She was said to come back in a human form some nights, but only to visit her children. She became known as a bad omen if you saw her flying around. It meant an impending death in the land. In the French stories, Melusine meets Count Raymond. In this story, she falls in love with him and offers her hand in marriage. He too falls in love with her and agrees to marry her, even under the condition of not seeing her every Saturday. They had 3 beautiful children together, but each were born deformed. Deformities were seen as socially unacceptable, so Raymond tried to kill each baby at childbirth. Melusine, however, was a loving and protecting mother and did not allow Raymond to bring harm to any of her children. This made her a patron to those with deformities. Raymond spies on her in her chamber one Saturday night, where he witnesses her in her bath with her serpent tail. He screams and expels her from the house of Lusignan. Melusine flies into the night shrieking. She promises to appear in the sky 3 days before the death of any member of the House of Lusignan. In the German translation from the later part of the 15th century, Melusine meets an older gentleman who was a German knight. They meet in the forest. They marry under the same conditions. However, the knight accidentally sees Melusine transform into a 2-tailed serpent. Although he is mortified, he decides to be a good husband and keep her. Melusine, however, believes that she is too horrible for him to love, and she leaves him. The knight is devastated. He goes mad, spending many years in search of his beloved wife, and calling for her to come back to him. Melusine never returns to the knight, and he is forced to remarry for an heir to inherit his property. Reluctantly, the knight finds himself a new bride. On the day of their wedding, just as the knight and his new bride were about to consummate their marriage with a kiss, the wedding was disrupted. Everyone saw a serpent's tail in the window and a little bit of blood dropping from the ceiling. This was when the knight realized that his beloved Melusine had finally returned to him. He found her on the rooftop looking very frightening. He said to her, "You know, my dear, I have always loved you. But you abandoned me. Would you kill me now and leave me with no sons? I wanted to adopt your sons, but you would not let me. Are you going to kill my bride too?" Melusine realizes that she has made a grave mistake and has become vengeful and unjustified as her mother had been with her. She leaves her knight with a sad goodbye, never to be seen by him again. Melusine makes her way to the Celtic region of Brittany in northwestern France. There, she makes a pact with Manannan, the son of sea god Lear, where a colony of mermen and merwomen reside. Some, like Melusine, that can walk on land, and some that cannot. After years of torture, Melusine was tired of her curse. In a fit of fury, she called out to her mother, "Mother, please, I will do anything for you. Please, give me another body." Persina appears to Melusine and says, "Okay, I will give you another body." Persina gives Melusine a man's body with a woman's soul, furthering the torture of Melusine. Many French royals claim to be descendants of Melusine, or at least dating back to the same time period of the story, and extremely fascinated with the legend. Melusine is viewed as a real character and as the founder of the royal dynasties of Luxembourg and Lusignan around the 10th century. During the 3rd and 4th Crusade, the 12th and 13th century, Lusignan ran the entire island of Cyprus, where they also view her as a real character and the founder of these dynasties. This is rare, as women in Western Europe are not usually a part of the founding dynasty. This is usually credited to a man. This, however, reveals its Celtic origins, where it is not necessarily matriarchal, but stressed elements of strong women. The legend of Melusine merged with at least 5 different cultures, having German elements, Sephardic Jew from the south of France elements, major Celtic elements from Brittany, non-Celtic French elements, medieval English and modern or Renaissance period, as well as elements from Irish and Welsh legends. The legend found its way to English in the beginning of the 15th century, and by the mid-15th century, the German version had become very popular. Melusine even became an unofficial saint of the Catholic Church in Germany. The 30-Year War took place in 16th century Germany, fought between the Protestants and the Catholic states. However, both continued the customs still used today in rural areas of Bavaria, of leaving offerings to Melusine, where she is also associated with the poor and the needy. The Nagas are serpent-like beings, as well as water deities that come from the legends of India. These legends were taken to the New World by the Portuguese, who first colonized India. You can see the evidence of this in colonial churches in Brazil, where the Naga are depicted and look like Melusine. In the Americas, many natives, including the Mayan, Aztecs, and Incas, have their own legends of half-human and half-fish or serpent beings. In the 16th century, France tried to colonize Brazil, bringing the story with them where Melusine was called Yara. Yara was a wronged female who had been raped by her brothers. She now sits and waits for any man who dares to mistreat a female and bring them down to the depths. In the New World, Melusine is known to seek out justice to men who do not treat women very well. She punishes rapists and abusers. By the early 17th century in Jamaica, stories turn up where Melusine rides the backs of manatees who possess their own supernatural power and brings sailors who need punishment directly to Melusine and her cousins of the New World. By the early 18th century, the Melusine character was so well known in the New World, most did not realize she originated in the Old World. From Haiti, the water Orisha, or spirit of nature, connects with Yamia, goddess of healing and water from South Africa. Like Melusine, Yamia is also known to care and heal children with deformities, affectionately calling her Mami Wata, or Mother Water, protector of the water creatures, much like the Greek goddess Artemis, also known as Diana, goddess of the hunt. Mami Wata will give the riches of the sea to those who do not deplete it. Mazu, a water goddess from the island of Taiwan, is a tale older than the one of Melusine. Some say she could be an ancestor or even the original origins of Melusine. Most folklore comes out of Asia from Indo-Europeans, much like Cinderella from the 17th century, taken from China, where the slipper was actually fur instead of glass. Jean d'Arras was the first to write down the legend of Melusine in his mid-14th century book, Melusine the Siren. The story of Melusine can still be seen in our modern culture today. There are still wells consecrated to her all over Germany to this day. She represents the eternal outsider. Melusine is also the origin for Hans Christian Andersen's The Little Mermaid, published in 1837. Andersen saw Melusine's legend as a model in which certain cultural groups cannot come together, but he toned down the more monstrous aspects of the legend for the children that he wrote for, where Melusine, or the Little Mermaid, becomes the outsider, willing to do anything to fit in. Starbucks' corporate world is very into mysticism with its own folklore. Starbucks was named after a nautical character, and they wanted the logo to represent the seductive imagery of the sea. They chose Melusine's imagery to do so, as depicted on one of the original shields from the House of Lusignan, from an earlier 15th century woodcut, making its first appearance at Pike's Coffee House in Seattle in 1991. Ever since I was a little girl, mermaids have been just so fascinating to me. Of course, The Little Mermaid was my favorite movie growing up, so when I found out that this was the origin story for The Little Mermaid, I had to dive into it deeper, and I'm so glad that I did and I was able to share it with you guys. So let's look at the project that we made during this video. So this is how it turned out. I did a completely different technique than I've ever done before. Actually, several different techniques than I've ever done before. I will put some nice close-up shots up here for you. I absolutely love how it turned out. I love the handle. I just happened to have some of this like pearl rope, so I wrapped it around some twine. And then the mermaid part, I wasn't sure if this was actually going to turn out, but it did. I'm really happy about that. I do wish that she popped off the background a little bit more, but I'm not disappointed with how it turned out. I'm really excited about this, and I can't wait for summer so I can go bring this to my cabin and hang it up at my cabin because it's kind of like mermaid-esque themed. So yeah. Alright guys, that is it for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you liked this video, don't forget to give it a big thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel so you can stay up to date with all of my uploads. And if you have any ideas for future videos, please leave them in the comment section below. Alright guys, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye!